So can you introduce you for our readers?
Sure. My name is Nick Konkle. I'm the lead gameplay designer for ZeniMax Online.
Okay. So basically, here is my first question. It's a already harsh one.
All right.
The animations are a little stiff. Are they going to be improved for the release?
Yeah, it's certainly a fairly common piece of feedback. So
yes.
And we absolutely encourage that. That's not certainly news to us. There's a number of efforts in progress right now to deal with that specifically, because it's a pretty common piece of feedback both to videos and to our beta internal testers.
Is there can you estimate what kind of percentage of progress you have on the animation so far?
We are kind of in the phase where there is an animation in place for everything that we want, but
which is already good.
But it's not necessarily of the quality. Maybe an animator would certainly be a better person to answer that question than myself. But let's say 70-ish%, something like that.
Okay, that's perfect. Was the build we tried? Was it 100%? Level of detail, graphical level of detail.
No, not at all. So, for example, the first-person weapons, all of those assets are low res, and we're gradually replacing them with higher res versions over time. So those
won't be need for mods this time around.
Well, they'll be 4x the texture resolution that you can see on all the weapons. And
talking about the mods, I actually have a strange question.
Okay.
Will there be any room for modding this game?
We allow you to mod the interface, so you can do whatever you want to change that around. You can put numbers on your screen. You can take them off. You can do anything along those lines. But as far as in-game content, no. You play the
You can't
game.
even change the textures if you want, tampering with the files.
Well, I think you can do anything you want to if you tamper. But it isn't a supported feature. To mod the content of.
Well, initially it wasn't even in Skyrim, for instance. So I think there are going to be people who are going to try to do that to improve the textures further.
Well,
talking about quality of the graphics, since now you're going to release on PS4 and Xbox One as well, are they going to be on par with the PC version, or they are going to be inferior or superior?
The current plan is to use all the same assets that we're using on the PC version as well in both the console versions. So I would expect it to look that way. Obviously, resolutions are different on computer monitors than they are versus on television, so there'll be some visual difference, but that's the extent of it.
So the resolution won't be 180p on the consoles?
1080p.
1080p, sorry.
Yeah, the resolution will super high, but it's a 4:3 aspect ratio for PC versus 1920 by 1080 for the console. So you can expect slightly different visuals just for TV screen versus monitor, but the assets themselves are all the same.
Yeah. Okay. So have you already worked with is work on the console version already start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That is basically most of what's got to be done for console versions on our end is
already done.
Is getting it to run, is getting it to build, because the versions of the game are more or less identical. And so mostly the challenge is a technical one as opposed to a gameplay one. There's a certain amount of UI stuff that we need to do specifically for the console because it's a controller.
Yeah.
But that's the extent of sort of the unique changes we have to make.
Gotcha. Are you going to go I don't know if you've seen what the Square Enix did with Final Fantasy XIV with the controller UI? Are you going to go do some special controller UI to make it faster than the usual controller, like the ability to use the hotbar with just one combination of keys?
There are a number of things in progress in order to make the controller interface feel tight for that particular system. That is one thing we know we have to do differently for the console versus PC versions, right? We have to make sure it goes on tightly. And other than that, I don't think there's.
So how are the PS4 and Xbox One to work with? Are they like dream machines like everyone thinks?
I think we're finding it actually quite easy to work with Sony and Microsoft. They're very responsive and.
Is it easy to port the game to the new consoles?
Well, I think very little in game development is actually easy. But,
easier than before.
I think the old versions of the consoles wouldn't have had the technical power to run the game, as we intended it to be run, and the new ones do. So in that sense, it's quite a bit easier, and that I feel like it can deliver an experience like what you would really
It's
want.
definitely not a like push one button and it's
It's there. I wish it were like
you
that.
wish. Well, someone actually told that it's that easy to do it.
I think it depends on the type of game, but for one like ours, where you have to connect to external servers, and there's all sorts of concerns about going.
By the way,
various
the
networks.
servers, if I'm not wrong, it's going to be all separate servers between PC and consoles, right?
Correct.
So PC is gonna have one, PS4 is gonna have one, and Xbox One is gonna have one.
Right. Except PC and Mac share one.
So why did you decide to put PS4 and PC in separate servers? Since Sony, as far as I know, allows to cross-platform gameplay.
I'm not necessarily the best person to ask about that. I know, that those sorts of decisions are more business ones than they are anything else.
So it was just a business decision.
I don't actually know the details of it.
Okay.
That was one. I know the reality of it. So.
That's a pity, though.
Yeah.
I normally like cross-platform, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain advantages to it that that we like, that allows more community building and ensures that everyone's having the same experience and plays together. So that's a benefit, but I don't know to what extent that played in that decision versus.
I'm actually a big proponent of the mega server architecture. What was the philosophy behind building that kind of architecture instead of the usual servers? Do you think they are like obsolete, the servers that we had?
Like anything, there's benefits and costs to all the decisions we made, but I think the main reasoning behind it was that's more or less how social circles have changed and are run now. People have this expectation that I can communicate with any of my friends in my social circle at any time, and that day one experience of what server are you on? Oh crap! I already played a character level 5, which it just isn't something that feels modern for an MMO anymore, and it's all gone for us. That's one of the things that I feel
awesome.
That's really enjoyable.
Another question I had in my mind. I'm a big role player. Are there going to be some mechanics, some things that you guys will do specifically to enhance role playing in the game?
It's something. It's definitely a type of player that we're very aware of. The things we've discussed are allowing people to go to specific instances for if they want to do specifically role playing of the game, but and then have that, of course, be player enforced as you would want to. Right? It's much more difficult to enforce that with any sort of systemic stuff. But I don't have any specific details to release other than that's a community that we're really aware of.
Considering that, for instance, the game is very, very based on exploration, for instance.
Indeed.
Are there going to be like places that are there just for being there, just for the lore, because I want to have this castle here because it's a big part of the Elder Scrolls lore,
Yes, absolutely. Ruins, random books around the corner, everything. If you played the game only trying to do the quests, only following directly the path of the story, you'd be fine, and you could progress just that way if that's what you want to do. But you'd be missing out on a whole lot of nooks and crannies that have things for you to find. Just pieces of lore, new stuff we've set up, sort of throwbacks to previous games that you might find, rewards for your character, chests that you can unlock. The game is very much built on the idea of if you just walk in a random direction, there's going to be stuff to do and you'll get rewarded for doing it.
How much effort has been put in easing in new players that are not MMORPG players into the game? Because being an Elder Scrolls game, you're probably going to have a lot of players that never played an MMORPG. Maybe even players that are a little bit of style to the idea of an MMORPG, I think. Because when it was announced, there was a lot of people, why are they wasting resources on an MMORPG? I love MMORPGs, by the way. I'm just asking. Is there going to be any mechanics in place to try and ease those players into the game and getting them used to the concepts of MMORPGs?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing you would have not noticed because it wasn't in that build was the tutorial. And the tutorial is an experience that I think is specifically focused on what you're describing, right? Teaching the core mechanics of the game in a setting where you have the opportunity to learn them, and then gradually introducing you to additional players and the concepts of those. So it's something we're very, very focused on as far as our initial experience goes, as well as something we constantly focus test, because those two styles of players, people who are primarily Skyrim players and people who are primarily MMO players. Now, of course, there's huge overlap there, like yourself. But for the people who don't overlap, we constantly bring in focus tests to make sure that our mechanics are working for both of them equally well.
I've noticed that the tutorial is completely voice acted. Is the whole game completely voice acted?
100%
like that?
voice acted.
Wow.
The whole game.
That's a big expense.
It was a very, very large undertaking to make sure.
And another company bombed because of that. Are you sure you want to do that?
We feel really good about how much that improves the experience of the game.
Do you have any idea how many voice actors have been used? No.
I wouldn't be the best person to answer that, but it is
a lot of variety.
It is a lot. Yeah, it is enough such that
because especially with Elder Scrolls 4, people were complaining that there weren't enough voice actors.
That is not a complaint we never get. There's more than enough different options for everyone.
Can we expect big names for voice acting as well?
I don't think I have any particular details to really say.
Okay. So by the way, can you give me the official response about Imperials? You told me before, but I have to repeat it on camera.
Sure. Imperials are a race that's in the game, as something you can find in NPC faction, and that's all I have for right now.
See, yeah. So you told me look forward to it.
Do we have to
conclude this interview? Do you have anything you would like to say to our readers? Maybe tell us something that you never told anyone. That's for sure going to happen. But I mean, tell us something that people really should look forward to in this game.
I hope there's so much, but something that I feel like is important to say is the thing that I probably like the most about working at this company is how responsive to feedback, player feedback, fan feedback, focus testing we are. It's absolutely a case that at the end of every session we have where people play the game, this one, beta sessions, internal, we'll spend a bunch of time and talk about and do that. And I would really encourage people who are maybe skeptical or don't know that don't feel comfortable in MMOs to play those things, and if they don't like what they find, give us that feedback, because either the game might surprise you or maybe we can make it so that it will.